No, not at
Far
all.
from it,
No, we would not volunteer for anything.
ever.
Normally, not at all.
No,
So
we
this-
just don't get involved in things. We really don't. For some reason, we just choose not to get involved in a lot of different community type activities because a lot of the time they're really, I don't know, they almost seem political where it's about, you know, who runs it and you have to answer to this one and you have to do that and you're not allowed to say this and they don't
Can't do
actually
that.
want any input. Like if you go get involved and you go, oh, I reckon that could be done better, they don't care what you think. They just want you to do what you're told. But with this, it was all about what we thought.
How exciting to be involved in something that's, you know, that you're helping, you know, how it becomes and how it's going to be perceived by everybody else.
Light bulb moment. Oh my God, you know, I'm being heard, I'm being listened to, and my opinions count.
This started where families were at. It didn't actually go in with a predetermined solution and an established program saying, you know, family, you have a particular problem, it needs to be fixed, and here we are as a professional with a solution for you. If we apply this solution, your problem will be fixed.
If policy is going to work, if it's going to be about enabling people to live different lives, then we've got to figure out what people actually need and want and prototype that stuff first before we put in place all of the structures and systems.
So we started off on this project developing a brief with services that was about enabling more families in South Australia to thrive and reducing the number of families that were coming into contact with state-provided crisis services.
I decided to come to the Australian Centre for Social Innovation because I was desperate for new. I was desperate for different and quickly becoming frustrated with the status quo, and that was very much from my own standards. I was repeatedly having this issue of families coming back in, and I felt like I'd exhausted everything I knew. I didn't know what else to try. In the look phase, we're trying to answer the question, what would be a great outcome for people? And to do that, we have to hang out with people, and that's what are known as ethnographic methods. That's trying to figure out what makes people tick, what motivates them, what excites them, what gets them up in the morning. You're just being with that family and living a day as they live it, experiencing a day as they do, and understanding what the ups and downs look like.
Part of the learning for me, was to learn what an ethnography was and how I would apply that. It was quite a scary process really, because that involved having to actually to walk the client's journey, and this was a bit of a displacement of power, I guess.
I had the opportunity to spend several days with a family of 10, and a family that had been through lots of chaotic times, had lots of service support, and yet after 5 o'clock and on the weekends, nobody was calling. And this was a family that was very disconnected from the community around them and that wanted things to be different in the house, but just didn't know how. Didn't have things to do, didn't know how to interact at a family level. And that was a common story across many of the ethnographies that we saw, of families wanting something to be different, not having the right kind of support, not having the right kind of models around them to know what they could do or what kind of family life was possible.
I took off my family's essayat and made it very clear that I hadn't got that on and that today we were just talking as two people, and I wanted to hear my client's story from the beginning to where she is now and where she hoped to go in the future. And I have to say it was quite an emotive and challenging process for myself as a professional to really reflect at that deeper level from the client's perspective and the journey through our system.
One of the most important things that I've learnt from this project is the element of prototyping. And if I can explain it in my own words, I understand it as something where you can try and you test something with the people that you're working with, and you get to test it over again until something works.
There's paper prototyping, where you might create a storyboard and put that in front of somebody and ask them to imagine themselves in that situation. And then there's experienced prototyping, and experienced prototyping is where you really learn the most because you try out something like a mini version of something or a live version of something over a period of time. So in Family by Family, we hired new staff, we recruited families, we connected them up in link-ups, and those link-ups ran for around 12 weeks. And from that real live experience, we were able to see what worked and keep changing things.
On a Wednesday night dinner, for instance, they'd come and say, look, we've thought of all these things, what do you guys reckon? And we'd all say, no, we don't agree with this, or this one's really great, or maybe change this one a bit. And then next week they come back and go, see, this is what we did. And it was like, hey, they actually listened. Like, we said that wasn't a great idea, and they actually paid attention. And that was a pretty big deal. There were a few nights we went home and went, oh my God, that was our idea.
It's probably one of the few, if not the only programs I've ever seen that's actually allowed that sort of developmental process to go through over many months. And so somebody sitting a little bit on the outside watching this occur, it was fascinating. But on the other hand, it could be a bit frustrating because you kept on thinking, gosh, that was a pretty good methodology or set of materials or resources you put together to work with these families. Gosh, I'd just be running with that. And then suddenly you gave time for families to sort of pick the eyes out of it and say, yeah, parts of that really worked and other parts were crap.
And even with the kids, if the kids said, we think this should be changed, it was changed. And that was a big deal because at the very beginning, there wasn't heaps of kids. There was only a few, but so the activities weren't as structured for them, but the kids had said we would really like it if it was. It would give us more things to do and we'd be really happy with that. And so the next time, bang, there was all these activities for them to do, and the kids were like, wow, they actually listened. And kids tend to have a tendency to be ignored.
So during the prototype phase of our project, I was the coach. And this presented many challenges with our constant chopping and changing of directions and throwing out materials and creating new ones. And I think it's difficult to make those adjustments for yourself, let alone bring a group of families along behind you.
At the beginning of our work with families, we focused so much on the relationship building part of it and less on the change focus. And over time, we've developed a new set of materials to help the coaches, help the sharing families, zero in on the stuff that can be changed.
So we developed between us the idea of the bubble diagram.
It's basically just a visual aid to show what we're trying to achieve and what doing these things, what you can get out of it.
In the value phase, we're trying to answer the question, what would it take for our prototype solution to actually grow and affect more people? And so that means telling the business case story of it. So that's what kind of social impact are we creating? What kind of cost savings emerge from working in this way in the long term? And the second is the emotional story. So using film and more ethnographic kinds of techniques to really let people know what was the experience like of being part of this solution and why does it need to exist?
Being part of the prototype, it's been awesome because I feel like we've had a say in how things are going to end up being, when it goes through. And I think that's just amazing because who else is better to help with all of that kind of stuff. There's been a few little hiccups and stuff.
It has challenged me personally and professionally in every way a person could be challenged. It's right from the start. I'm assessment versus ethnography and writing a policy versus co-design and prototyping versus piloting, throwing things out as quickly as you make them. It's just really starting from the bottom up, and I really understand now, and I think it's taken me the full 12 months, but I do really understand the potential that exists when you design and you create something with your end user versus creating something for them that you think will fit them best.
Whilst it can be frustrating at one level to sort of have to sit back and wait for something to develop over time like this, it makes eminent sense that that's exactly what we should be doing in social policy construction, that we shouldn't be jumping to solutions that are half-baked and often don't have any evidence to sort of back them up, and we should actually give ourselves the time and space, not just to actually develop the right programs, but to sit and actually listen to the experts. And the experts are not generally the people that have got professional backgrounds in this arena. The experts are families. We
were just as much developing it as much as the coordinators were, as well as the other families. And that, if you can make something like that work, and get some of your ideas across, hopefully good ideas across, you know what I mean, and implement some of them, you know what I mean. I think it's like I've said before, it's the ultimate in giving back, you know what I mean. It's absolute gold.